With the core box, the Dunwich Legacy, the Path to Carcosa and the various standalone packs, there are plenty of scenarios to play through. And with new investigators and replacement cards being released through the novella series, there is always something new and exciting to try out. And you can always replay everything with different investigators or go along to an organised play event and make some new friends. But an option that has recently become available is that of the single colour or single class team. This is where 4 players each pick an investigator from a single class. Path to Carcosa introduced a 3rd investigator for each class, and because of the Marie Lambeau preview card that came with the Investigators of Arkham book pre-order, this meant the Mystics now had 4 investigators and could form a single colour investigating team. Shortly after this came Norman Bates for the Seekers in the Ire of the Void book, and so it was possible for the Seekers to form their own party of 4. Then Carolyn Fenn to bring the Guardians up to 4 investigators. And the moist around the edges, Silas Marsh arrived to form a survivor quartet. Sadly, it was only the Rogues who just had the replacement Jenny Barnes instead of a new investigator that were forced to limp along with 3. Until, of course, the ushering in of a forgotten age that made 4 investigators easily accessible to every class. With the impending release of the 4th deluxe box, there will be plenty of choice when it comes to forming a monocolour club. There is no doubt that the most effective teams are those which balance the classes and use them to specialise in the key areas of gameplay, such as gathering clues quickly, absorbing or healing damage and horror, dealing with enemies, passing skill tests, resisting treachery cards, and moving about the map like a 1920s ninja. Players can slot into roles similar to those you might find in a massively multiplayer online computer game or in a Dungeons and Dragons party. But if you are looking for something fun, something unusual, or definitely a new kind of challenge, both in terms of deck building and gameplay, the single colour party is an amazing experience, assuming you like that sort of thing. If you are a convention organiser or a store owner, a single colour theme event is definitely a draw, as it is something new, particularly when coupled with an organised play kit from Fantasy Flight Games. And if you can have each party playing through the same scenario, then you can award a prize to the most successful group. If your group doesn't have access to 4 investigators of the same class, this might seem like a good stopgap. Playing with 3 of a single class is okay, but not as wild and crazy as 4. We tried topping the groups up with Lola, but as she spends so much time out of class, this didn't really work for us. If you're going to be using a lot of cards from a single class, you will need a large card pool. It is best if every player has their own collection. If you're playing with 4 Guardians, you would probably want 8 machetes, for example. The more core boxes you have, the better, because you will probably need a lot of tokens. 4 Rogues might use a lot of resource tokens, as might 4 Mystics with all their charges, and not to mention all their Doom tokens as well. This is also a format that benefits from 1 player per investigator, making it perfect for organised play, but not so hot for solo play, as controlling 4 investigators by yourself involves an awful lot of bookkeeping. The single colour party works great for standalone adventures, as it doesn't really matter if you die in the end or come out with loads of trauma. With a campaign, if you have to retire an investigator, there may not be another available from that class to replace them. This in effect raises the stakes, and you find yourself becoming much more cautious and attached to your characters, which really amps up the role-playing aspect of the game. Bear in mind, this can also make the game less fun. If your party of Guardians are carrying a lot of mental trauma, as happens with Guardians, then you may spend more time healing than investigating. Beware in particular one player taking more trauma to their character than the others. Try and play it so it's spread around a bit and no one person is unduly burdened. If the deck construction aspect of this game isn't something you enjoy, then this probably isn't going to be the format for you. But if you do, these restrictions will definitely encourage you to be a better deck builder. The key to success in this format is how you use your out-of-class cards. These become much more important when you don't have access to investigators of the other classes. If you agonised over your Dunwich Investigators 5 cards of any class before this will drive you batty. Any party without a seeker in it whatsoever is going to need to give plenty of thought to how they optimise their clue gathering. The Rogues in particular have always struggled with their low intellect scores and lack of access to seeker cards to boost them. The core investigators can carry a lot of the burden, as these are all multi-class investigators but only really have access to cards of up to level 2, meaning the chunky cards you need for your end of campaign finale will have to come from within your class. Allies are very important for providing ways to absorb damage and horror and for granting static bonuses. Having a team of single colour investigators really reduces the pool you can draw from, and classes such as Mystic aren't known for their allies. A bigger problem is that many allies are unique, and so you can only have one in play at once. All your Seekers will want a Dr. Milan, but only one player can benefit from him. All but one of the Survivor allies are unique too, so you may want to use some of your precious out-of-class cards for allies. You can go even further on your restrictions and specify only neutral cards and cards that match your class, or even only cards that match your class colour. But if you remove too much agency from the player in terms of deck building, then you stifle the creativity and fun. A yellow-only party works because Daisy and Norman have access to a lot of Mystic cards for damage dealing. If you take that away, then they become very fragile indeed. You might not want to commit to an entire campaign of a single colour team, and there are a number of shorter options if you just want a little taster. The first is Return to the Night of the Zealot, which revitalises the core box scenarios and should be familiar enough for you to focus on getting used to your new party style. If you have less time, then the Labyrinths of Lunacy can be a one and done, or wait for Guardians of the Abyss. Here on the Arkham Chronicle, we'll be having a look in more detail at each single colour party, so check for some more videos in this series. And if we're smart, we'll have put them all in a playlist. But we aren't that smart, just so you know.